Recording a podcast with my buddy Joe.
Right?
Making priorities of things.
Yeah, right.
Halo Season 2 finally delivers on a team-up game fans have been waiting for. What, Master Chief in his helmet?
He wears it a lot in the show.
Not enough.
Says the person who has, I don't think, watched more than one episode.
First off, I finished the first season. That's like 10 episodes.
That is like 10 episodes.
So, boom. Gotcha. Suck it, nerd.
Says the guy who refuses to continue watching it.
That is a true statement. That is the truest statement you've said this morning.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, to me. Around me.
There you go.
I don't know what you said before we've started communicating via this telecommunication process.
Not a lot. Oof. Apple News is being really awful right now.
I had to literally close the app on my computer for it to refresh anything.
Like it's just being herky-jerky.
That's what she said. Oh.
Yeah, maybe. Oops.
Speaking of which, did you?
Out of FaceTime.
Oh, don't do that.
Max.
Did you get wired yet or no?
No. So I went to their website to I remember on their website they have a place that you can go to and see what their idea is for when hookups are going to start.
Yeah.
And our area is not slated for hookup until next month. It just says, what is next month? April?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just says April. Mm-hmm. So it says, construction is supposed to be March, and then actual hookup is not until April.
So they're still working on that area.
Yeah, so like our whole street is done, so they must be in another, obviously in another street somewhere working on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, luckily my area is only like what is it? Technically, 5 streets. 1, 2, 4 streets. Yours is quite large.
Quite large, and then if you look at the map of what they of this area, we were Zone 3, and it looks like the way they're building things out is from kind of like sandwiched from major road to major road. So the people who are closest to the one major road by us is Zone 1 and 2. Those are the two ones that are already scheduled to be hooked up by now. Then we're next after that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's probably that's where the actual fiber lines hit is off the major thoroughfare, as they say.
Yeah. So I feel kind of bad for some of the other more inland neighborhoods that are still like another month or two out from construction and hookup.
Yeah, because I mean I'm next to a major thoroughfare as well, so it was just the fact they were working from west to east on mine. Yours is obviously north south is the biggest thing. I mean they're probably working west east on yours too, but you will happen to be on the west side of that little section right there where the major streets cross over.
Yeah. So to continue on that, like we're Zone 3. There's 9 zones total, but the zones that are closest to the both major roads near us are the ones that are getting hooked up first, even though one side is like Zone 6, 7. They'll be actually hooked up before us just because they're closer to the major road.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. But that means that it sounds like they've been running fiber on both roads.
That's good. Probably makes it easier. Plus
makes it easier. It kind of makes sense too, because
down.
if they're going to, because what like you mentioned to me last week is that my parents' neighborhood will have fiber as well, which means that, god damn it, what the hell? I keep hitting this the armrest and kicking it over. That makes sense as to how they're getting hooked up as well. If you follow the major roads.
Yeah. They happen to be pretty close to one of them, but also farther away from the other one.
Yeah.
Either side, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the flags buried and there's some trucks there. I was like, oh shit. I gotta let Joe know.
But it'll be nice to have that for us. Like I said, I can finally. I did take a look and had to like really guess because you asked about what Ethernet I have running through the walls.
Yeah.
And it's Cat5e.
Oh. Okay.
So not the greatest, but it still can carry gigabit.
Yeah.
Over 100-meter range, and I doubt going because the master bedroom is going to be the furthest away from the box, and there's no way that's 100 meters. That's not even 50 meters probably.
Yeah, no, there's no chance.
So I should be able to still get really good speeds. It also just means that it'd be pointless to go over the 100 gigabit plan anyway.
Yeah, no, that's just dumb. You don't need that.
Yeah.
I mean, they state they state like 45 devices can be on at one time or something like that with that one without having it like bottleneck.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at that.
I think it was 45. But I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. But it also gives us more time to plan out how we're going to have things hooked up, and maybe over the next couple weeks, get that more set up and just ready to go.
You could always drop new lines too. It's probably pretty easy to do.
Oh, I'm not going to run any lines in this rental place.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with where everything's hooked up. I just need to when I say like get things more ready. The plan is to install a shelf above that box in the laundry room, and then move the router over there. That's it.
Because it's currently in the living room, right?
Because it's currently in the living room. Yeah. Move it over there, and then I just run all of the Ethernets up to that. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I got some stuff.
Let's
saved.
go for it because I really don't have much. I didn't really see much this week that I was interested in.
Some of these would be pretty quick, and they're definitely not huge topics. But so I don't know if you've even tried or started watching or want to watch the show Shogun on FX.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of it, so I don't really have much of an interest in it.
So it is a historical drama, some would say, based in the Shogun era of feudal Japan. It's basically in the time frame where other countries are finding other countries by boat. So this is all about how Portugal has basically made a connection to Japan and is working with them in like their gun trade and things like that. But it's a pretty epic show. Really well done. But reason I bring this up is because there's an article that came up that states Shogun Season 2 is unlikely according to showrunners, which is a very bizarre statement coming from a showrunner, because usually the showrunner is like all geeked up to get a Season 2 going.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because this is based on a book.
Oh, so it's like one and done.
And they've basically said that they penned the show to be all of the book in Season 1.
Good.
So they didn't try to drag it out. They literally looked at all the events that were happening in the book and said, this is where we start and this is how it ends. And they liked the ending of the book, so they kept it true to that. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't think that there's a way to do a Season 2 because there is no more content via that book. because it's a singular novel. So hard to do a season 2 based on something that doesn't exist.
I have always been of the mind, and I think I've said this plenty of times in the past, where I like the idea of that. Don't stretch things out more than it needs to be, especially if it's built off of a pre-existing material.
Yeah.
Have a good idea of where you're starting and where you want to end, and then go from there. So the idea that they're just making this one book, it's one season, it's honestly more of an incentive to go and watch it, because I know that it's going to be a cohesive just story. And I'm not going to be sitting there going, okay, I'm suddenly really invested in this, but are enough people invested in this that it's going to get a season 2 type thing? Yeah, so that I love that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the crazy part is like, so like they kind of knew this going in, obviously. So they wanted to tell. Mainly, I think they did it, and this doesn't say this. Not that I saw in this article, but it could be another article about it. But they wrote it because they wanted to tell the story in one season. Because if they didn't get a second season, then you wouldn't get that culmination of the story.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I like the idea of why they did it that way. So you're not trying to just flesh out more seasons when you shouldn't need to.
Yeah, I want more things to be like that. I've always thought that it'd be really cool to just have a production company that just comes in, buys up books, and are just like, yeah, this is one book. It's a really good story. We're just going to make one season. That's it. It's one arc. That's all it is. We're done. You know, maybe if the author writes another book, they come back to it, you know. But I've always loved that idea and wished that somebody would do it. Here they are, at least doing it with one thing, and hopefully, what's it available on?
Well, FX obviously, but also Hulu.
Hulu, okay. So yeah, like if they could do more of that, I think it would be more of an incentive for me to watch these things without having to feel like I have to invest myself in another thing.
Yeah.
And B, I think they could have a much more cohesive and good plot rather than just stretching things out.
Yeah.
And trying to make it a new Game of Thrones, or trying to make it a new continual season of everything. You know, I'm getting too sick and tired of companies trying to just milk everything for every last cent that they can by just expanding and expanding and expanding. Just give me a good content story, beginning, middle, end, and just done.
Yeah. His quote, this is from this is Justin Marks. Yeah, Justin Marks said, "We took the story to the end of the book and put a period at the end of that sentence. We love how the book ends. It was one of the reasons why we both knew we wanted to do it, and we ended it in exactly that place." Then it goes on to say, it's not like a normal TV series where if we were in a situation like this promoting it, we wouldn't be in the writer's room already. We'd be on set shooting season 2 by now. Because it's definitely not like a, hey, we're just going to shoot this real quick. It's massive set pieces and like huge shots of like, you know, bygone era areas, you know. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And then they go on to talk about how like they, you know, it's a bummer. You know, you one of those producers wrote nearly 900-page instruction manual on how to do this show, almost as long as a book, Shogun itself. All this infrastructural knowledge went into it, and just hope someone, maybe a friend, needs a production primer on feudal Japan at some point, so he can be like, hey, here you go. This book is, you know, this will save you 11 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, because I mean, this definitely. I mean, it's a popular show, and it sucks to hear that it's not getting season 2. But to your point earlier, That's definitely a better way of doing it than trying to,
drag it out
and elongate something that doesn't need to be. If you have a good story to tell, might as well do it as like a standalone mini series, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I thought that was a pretty bold statement, but also it's pretty rad because I think they're kind of standing on. They're like, hey, like we're done. Like we made this. They've most likely got other projects they're willing to work on and things like that. So with success of this, I can't say words. I'm sure they're going to be well looked after by other people, not just FX in general, because I mean FX has a lot of really good shows right now. They're doing extremely well. But having one of these where it's not, maybe their next one could be multiple seasons. Who knows what their next project would be? But
But it's a good point that she made with them. Just like, yeah, we're done and we're working on something new. Like this might be having content more like this might attract bigger actors as well, because you're not having to make a time commitment of over multiple seasons to get something to make this. You just are like, yeah, we're just doing 10 episodes, let's go hire Robert Downey Jr. to play a character or something like that. He doesn't now have to commit to multiple years of things, because he's also a movie star. It gives him the opportunity to just be like, yeah, I want to do this small screen thing, and then I'm done. I can go do this movie, whatever. So, yeah, I'm all down for this. I wish that more companies would be like this and just pick up really good book stories and adapt them into just what they are, and that could be done, whether it's, 10 episodes or 12 episodes, just get it done in one swoop, and then that's it. You're done.
I agree wholeheartedly. Actually, Wikipedia actually even says it's a miniseries.
Good. I kind of do miss that. I know that you used to have every once in a while shows like that back in the 90s. Speaking of one, I remember because wasn't Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. a miniseries?
Yeah.
And so was the It.
The Tim Curry one?
Tim Curry, that's who it was.
That one was
technically was a miniseries, but I think it was only two.
It was
episodes or something.
Yeah, two movies essentially.
2 movies.
Yeah. But yeah,
and I know there have been multiple ones, but I remember that being something back in the day where they were like miniseries event, where just like this is a one-off type thing that we're doing, and you were like invested in it because it was just this small thing that they were doing. So I miss that type of thing.
Yeah, plus it gives you a chance to actually focus on telling the story versus trying to figure out how to pace it out for longer.
Yeah.
I was trying to find, because I looked up this dude before, this Justin Marks guy, because he's a writer. His wife is the co-creator of the show. And there was something interesting that I found, and I gotta find it again. I looked up Wikipedia. That's why I was here. Yeah. So his previous films were this isn't like in showing good marks for this first thing, but with Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. Not his fault. Not a great movie, but whatever. But that was his first writing credit, and then he did The Jungle Book, the live action one for Disney.
It's a weird jump, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was also like 7 years later. Then he did story only for Top Gun Maverick, which is obviously more recent.
Damn.
Yeah. Right. And then he did one of my favorite shows that kind of I wish would have gone longer, but I mean I get it. Was on Starz, called Counterpart with J.K. Simmons.
Okay, that's cool.
It was an early I say early 2017, but it was one of the first like multiverse type things that came out before it was all the rage to do in movies and TV shows. But if you haven't watched that show, you should check it out because it's pretty fucking gnarly. And then he did a show called Rewinds on what channel was that on? I can't remember where was that. NBC? Yeah, NBC. I never watched it. I just remember I was looking at it though. But Counterpart's dope because it has J.K. Simmons in it, and it's a pretty good show. So the Shogun miniseries. Highly recommend watching it if you get a chance. If you can at all, watch it if you have access to Hulu and or FX.
I do, yes.
And the next story I have is Seth Rogen is making an R-rated Spider-Man spin-off based on the adventures of Venom.
Oh, interesting.
So the Spider-Verse is set to expand even further. Seth Rogen is currently working on writing an animated Spider-Man spin-off movie focused on Venom. So this says the movie will be running in parallel with the live-action Venom movies. Sony has already been making, in much of the same way Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has been parallel to the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Best of all, unlike Miles Morales animated Spider-Man movies, Into the Spider-Verse movies, or the Spider-Verse movies, this Seth Rogen project, it will be rated R, because he's, obviously he kills people. Right. So that's pretty rad. So in that, I was trying to find the other article that I read, but it wasn't on Apple News, and I don't remember where I read it from. But to go along with this is rumors are Venom 3, the movie with obviously Tom Hardy in it, is actually going to be a multiverse movie. And it's going to have Topher Grace's Venom appear in it.
Oh, interesting.
And they're taking this again. This is all rumored. Nothing's factual. But one of the things that led to the rumor, I guess, which came out right before the last Spider-Man movie did, but didn't get any traction until most recently because the filming began for the new Venom movie. And photos from day one show Tom Hardy wearing the same outfit he was wearing when he got pulled through the multiverse at the end of Venom 2 and at the end of Spider-Man, where you see him at the beach resort or whatever, right? And he spots Spider-Man for the first time. Mm-hmm. Because in his world, technically, we know there's not really a Spider-Man that he's interacted with. There could be one, but nothing that he's seen. But yeah, he's wearing the same outfit, which leads to the fact that obviously there's a multiverse because he was tied to it in those movies. But yeah, so the rumors were that this movie's supposed to have multiple versions of Venom. The Venom symbiote, not just another symbiote, but the Venom symbiote. And we only have two technically in the heralds of live action Spider-Man. It's the Topher Grace one from the Tobey Maguire, and of course Tom Hardy's Venom. But it doesn't mean they couldn't bring in another one that they wanted to. So pretty rad. The way they if that actually comes true. But yeah, so I was trying to find that article again because they had a little more detail that I'm spacing in my brain right now. But yeah, so pretty cool, I thought. But yeah, so, and also the fact that he's making an R-rated Venom animated movie to go along with the movies and stuff like that. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does with it. I'm trying to think of. I know he's done a few writing things.
Well, he did the most recent Turtles movie.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of like what the tone of the movie will be. You say R-rated. So obviously there's going to be probably a bit more blood, guts, swear words in it.
Yeah.
But that it makes me wonder how goofy and funny it's going to be because he's more of a comedic actor, and that's why I'm trying to think of like anything that he's written that has been a little bit more serious. So it sounds like it's going to be a bit more of like a comedy type of action, movie.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all I'm trying to think of. So it'd be interesting to see, and then how they exactly, because I mean, are they going to tie it directly into the Spider Verse thing, or is it going to be its own thing? That's
It just says runs
thing I wanna know.
parallel, so I don't know
Yeah.
if it's
So
gonna.
is it also going to be again? Then is that just going to mean that this is a parallel world to Miles Morales' world? I know we already deal with multiverse stuff in the sequel movie, or is this going to take place in Miles' world? Kind of thing. It'd just be interesting to see where they position it within that. Is it going to have the same art style as the Into the Spider Verse movies, or is it going to be its own type of art style? That's all I'm trying to wonder at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, because all it says is that it's in vein of that type of world. So, I mean, who knows? Because all it says here is it's basically running parallel with the movies, but that doesn't mean it's tied to them directly. It could reference them, but I don't know if that means it's because it just reference in this article. It just says spin-off that's focused on Venom, so it could be a spin-off from the Spider-Verse movie. So it could be from that realm, but I'd be okay with a similar art style, not same, because obviously with the Spider-Verse, the different characters from their different worlds are animated differently. So they would probably have to make kind of his own art style in that kind of realm. So he wouldn't be directly tied to, Gwen's universe or Miles's universe, or even I'm spacing his name right now. But Spider-Man 2099.
It's like Juan? No.
I can't remember the name right now. My brain's not focusing on it.
But then as far as the Tom Hardy one, like I'm down for a Venom 3, especially if it starts to include fallouts or characters from the other Spider-Man movies, a little bit more tying it into the main Marvel movie set. It has been the better of any of the Sony property Spider-Man stuff right now.
Yeah.
So I'm down for more of it. It'll be interesting to see how they position the two, because I can definitely see this being more of a good Venom, bad Venom type thing.
Yeah. Definitely. So when we talk about what he's written, trying to pull up a list of both. So movie wise, obviously he's known for his more comedy stuff. The Interview, Sausage Party, This Is the End. What other movie ones he wrote? That's super bad. Jay and Seth versus the Apocalypse. I don't know if you've ever seen that short film or not, but it's him and Jay. It's an older one. But yeah, so then like TV wise, for writing, he has early stuff, Undeclared. He like did an episode of The Simpsons, whatever, right? The League, he created, did story elements, and directed at least one or two episodes of Preacher, very well done comic book adaptation, which was, I mean, for the most part, serious. There was some funny stuff in it, like Arseface and stuff is a human male, a teenager with a butthole for a mouth, due to scarring, not because he was born with a butthole for a mouth. But he's for writing wise, he's done, majority of it has been definitely like a comedy based with other stuff in there, but he's executive producing a Darkwing Duck.
I think I remember that.
What the fuck? I didn't know that.
Darkwing Duck is coming back. Yeah.
That's fucking rad as hell. I love
Right?
Darkwing Duck.
Right? Let's Get Dangerous.
Hell yeah, bro. Reboot.
Is he doing with Reboot as well? Or
No,
this
it's the
is
reboot of it, yeah.
Darkwing Duck.
I just went to the page and it had reboot, so I went and clicked on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Darkwing Duck reboot is a development from Disney Plus. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who was his writing partner, will executive produce the project via Point Grey Picture. Tad Stones reveals that he is involved with the reboot series. as a creative consultant. He's the original creator of Darkwing Duck, by the way. So that's pretty rad. I didn't know that was a thing, but I'm down for it.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I thought was pretty. Paige actually found that story about the Venom animated movie with.
Of course she did.
Yeah, because she was always keywords of Venom popping up. She's like, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, Venom. Yeah.
Venom. Next story. This is a short one, but I thought was pretty cool because the art they've released for it is fucking cool. But I don't play this game, and I never will play this game. But Overwatch 2 will let you dress your heroes as Cowboy Bebop characters. Nice. And they show some of them, which I don't know the names of these characters, but you'll be able to basically dress the gunslinger Ash as Spike Siegel, or the gun-toting Faye Valentine. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, and they show a couple of them, and then there's a trailer I'll send later to you if you want to watch it. That just basically has
not enough for me to go and play it, but
yeah.
But yeah, that is pretty cool. That I don't know. I figured that some of these would actually have. Yeah, I searched for it, and I can see the video, but nobody's just giving me damn pictures.
Yeah, there's only one picture I've seen on this article, which is from Engadget, which shows the gunslinger character from the game, whose name I can't remember, dressed as Ash, because he's got the metal arm and everything. But yeah, it's very stylish. His face looks closer to Spike because his character's face in the game looks that way. But well, the video actually makes him look like Spike on that one. Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
But yeah, not
super content. But
yeah, not really gonna make me play that game ever. But I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see. We talked about this previously before, where the director of the remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it of Roadhouse was boycotting the premiere at South by Southwest. He has actually reversed that, and he actually did show up, but he did not go on stage and premiere the movie or debut the movie. That was left to Jake to do. But he did get a standing ovation from the crowd that was there, and everyone says that it's a rip-roaring good time. They're like, it's not like, an Oscar movie, which no one should ever think that Roadhouse would be.
No.
But as long as it doesn't do what they did with Point Break and make it a tragedy, then I'm down for it. But yeah, so I thought it was interesting. He kind of went back on it. And the fact that apparently there's a lot of turmoil in the behind the scenes of the movie besides the whole reversal of releasing in theaters. The fact that I can't remember, I read this a little bit. So basically, the behind the scenes controversies is the fact that Joel Silver reportedly clashing with Amazon MGM Studios over the intention of releasing it solely as a streamer is one thing, but where's the other part here? The original movie's writer R. Lance Hill began speaking up against the project of the remake and filed a lawsuit against Amazon and MGM Studios for copyright infringement in utilizing AI-generated voices to complete the project during the SAG-AFTRA strike of 2023.
That's right. You mentioned that, and I do remember reading about that, but I guess I don't remember. Does it say like where they use those voices? Like what?
No, so
context to?
It doesn't know. It just says that Amazon MGM have come out and said they did not do any of that. That's false.
Okay.
And that's all it says though, but it doesn't say like how it was used. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I guess I could imagine them doing voice work of like background characters or redubbing lines that weren't done well, like post, because of obviously recording in post and stuff like that. But yeah, but I thought that was interesting that the writer from the original movie is suing them for copyright infringement, and utilizing AI generated voices to complete the project during the SAG-AFTRA strike. But it's like those are like two like separate things.
Mm-hmm.
But also, isn't this based on a book?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Roadhouse is based on a book.
So did he write said book? Because I can't imagine them, Roadhouse.
Roadhouse. Actually,
Nope.
just typing in Roadhouse book might not have been a good idea.
It does not say. It was based on a book, a story by David Lee Henry. So who is this guy then? R. Lance Hill. Is that for the remake guy? I'm so confused by this statement in this article now. Remake. 2024. He is not mentioned in this as a credit at all. So who in the hell is R. Lance Hill? That is not how you type any of that, Cody.
Yeah, even Wikipedia so far doesn't say that it was based off of any other material.
Oh, here we go. R. Lance Hill, is an American screenwriter and novelist. He is best known for writing the 1989 cult film Roadhouse, as well as the novel and screenplay for The Evil That Men Do. So I'm confused. I was confused that Roadhouse was not based on a novel, but his other movie was. But he uses the pseudonym David Lee Henry while in Hollywood. So David Lee Henry is R. Lance Hill, which more sounds like a pseudonym than David Lee Henry does, if you ask me.
What Men Do is a old Charles Bronson movie.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Based on a book by this guy. So
yeah.
he is David Lee Henry, who is credited as the writer of Roadhouse. But if you're remaking it, I mean, is he trying to say that they didn't buy the copyright for it and they just decided to remake Roadhouse willy nilly? Because I'm pretty sure that's not a thing that could happen nowadays.
I don't know.
With the amount of lawyers that Amazon must have on retainer in their entertainment portion of it, would probably say, hey, we own the rights to this, right? I know MGM had it, and I'm almost guessing, if I had to look at this, was the original Roadhouse an MGM property?
Don't know, but if it was, then yeah, it would make sense that they possibly just bought it from them.
Produced by Joel Silver. Who makes it though?
Oops. Nope, I meant Wikipedia. There you are. Wikipedia. Directed, screenplay, story, produced, starring, cinematography, edited, music, distributed by United Artists.
Yeah, I just found that too. United
Production company was
Artists.
Silver Pictures.
Yeah, because that's Joel Silver. Oh, yep. So he has no no basis for this, because guess who owns United Artists Releasing? MGM, who is owned now solely by Amazon.
Yeah.
So I don't think he has much room to stand on that little point. And if he can prove the AI generated voices, then he may have basis for that lawsuit. But
I just don't understand, like, where does the lawsuit come in that? I guess it would just really depend on what contracts and stuff were. But then at the same time, why is he suing for that?
Yeah.
I could see, like, if I can see if they, but that's still a weird one. If they had if they used AI to generate lines for Ryan Gosling.
Who's not in the movie?
Sorry, not Ryan Gosling.
Jake
Jesus.
Gyllenhaal.
Anyway, whatever his name is.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. There might be some sort of thing there, but then again, he's in the movie anyway as your main character. Like, if you don't want to go back and do a reshoot and you just have to do some sort of weird, voiceover or something, or just need to fix a flub, you could do that now and not have to go reshoot and spend a bunch of money on it. But again, that would be on Jake Gyllenhaal, not this guy.
Yeah.
To sue over. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyhow, I thought it was interesting that he backpedaled on his boycott of the premiere of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Since he spoke so highly of it, and he's like, "This is like the greatest thing that Jake Gyllenhaal's ever done."
It's very weird.
Yeah. I have not read that article yet, but it's about Jack Reacher season 3. I just brought it up just now because I was like, "Oh, that I want to read that." This one's not a huge one, but I thought it was a pretty impactful movie thing. Nikon buys high-end cinema camera company Red, or RED, as some would say.
Yeah, I don't think anyone cares at this point. Red cameras used to be a big thing way back in the day. And honestly, have they done anything important in the last decade?
They get used in production of things,
they do,
but it's not like they've changed the market. And the reason I didn't know this, but this article actually pointed out the fact that, basically, red cameras, because they're a small form factor and the ability to be adapted into different lenses and things like that, make them a good recording camera. But it's not like it's like, oh, this is revolutionary. But they've been used on things like, like most recently, like Squid Game's TV show, Peaky I don't know why I had to say
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders. I don't know how to say why I had to say Squid Game's TV show. It's the only thing that exists in that. But also like the Captain Marvel movie was used on that one. But basically, Nikon has stopped making new SLR cameras.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah.
So they still produce the ones they have currently out, but they actually haven't started developing new digital SLR cameras. So that's a very interesting thing, and the fact that you're going into this, which the other part too is, I didn't know. Apparently, in 2022, Red actually sued Nikon for using their digital. What was it? This is a different article. It doesn't have it on there. But basically, it's like their optical technology or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so they actually sued them now, or fully owned by them. So that's pretty gnarly. But I thought it was an interesting thing to bring up. And the fact that like Nikon isn't developing new DSLRs, which is fucking crazy to me. But obviously camera sales aren't nearly as big and popular as they used to be with the advent of extremely well-made camera phones, or smartphones in general, not just camera phones.
In my opinion, too, the DSLRs have always been more of a niche market in any way.
Yeah, not everyone's going out there to buy those.
And pro people. So yeah, like unless there's some other new development that you can make in a DSLR, which I have no idea, then yeah, it's kind of a dying thing.
Well, even other camera manufacturers like Sony has gone away from technically having DSLRs. They're still they are. So a DSLR single lens reflex camera, they've gotten rid of the reflex portion because there's not a mirror that moves out of the way anymore. It's basically just an on-chip photo sensor. So like SLRs in general are kind of like a gone thing. But it's weird to see like Nikon, who's like arguably one of the biggest DSLR manufacturers, doesn't actually develop new versions of it. They're just still manufacturing the current line. So they're not trying to develop new things, they're not trying to push the the limits of things. Like Leica just released one of their new flagship cameras, the I think it's the S7R or R7S. I can't remember the name, or actually might be, I can't remember the name of it. But they are they're doing crazy stuff. Their newest one is 60 megapixels that shoots 8K video. That's fucking gnarly, dude. Like, I can't even imagine the file size of like a raw image coming off a 60 megapixel sensor, but that shit would be massive, dude. Massive. So yeah, interesting.
It's definitely interesting.
But also it could be the fact that, like, you know, because I'm pretty sure movie industry still uses red a lot in cameras on movies and TV shows because of the smaller form factor and the fact that it can be adapted to multiple rigs and lenses and all that fun stuff. But now that Nikon owns them wholly, it's an interesting little fact, I thought. Halloween TV series gets major development update and teases how show connects with different timelines. This article the article title made it sound like there's a lot more detail in this, but there's not. It can be summed up in 3 bullet points. Miramax's head of worldwide television, Mark Helwig, says that they are on the fast track to lock down the creative team for the upcoming Halloween TV show. That's bullet point number 1. Number 2, Hedwig says the show is a creative reset, going back to the original film and potentially exploring characters not focused on recent movies. Basically saying that they're going to focus on people outside of Laurie Strode, but obviously still in the realm of Halloween, so probably still have a tie to Michael Myers. But we'll see. And then the last bullet point is the show has a potential to expand in a wider cinematic universe, building on the foundation of John Carpenter's horror classic, which basically means they're planning a show that could spin off into movies leading from the show.
Okay.
Which you and I have talked many times about, which my next article is going to talk about too, about, you know, having that jump of let's make really good TV and then have it where a story element or plot could be focused on in a 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. That could be released on TV or in theaters, depending on how you want to do it. And nowadays, it's kind of a very blurry line of the two. A la the article we just talked about, which was the Roadhouse thing, where like it doesn't have a major emotion. Like 5 years ago, if you said a remake of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal and Doug Liman directing it was coming out only on a streamer, I'd been like, you're out of your mind. That's a terrible idea. But nowadays, it doesn't actually faze me at all thinking that would be a thing.
Right.
Because like you have people like Bradley Cooper making biopics for Netflix. So, I mean,
I didn't realize that was for Netflix.
Yeah, it was a Netflix movie.
Oh.
Yeah, Maestro is a Netflix project. So next up, and I didn't know this was a thing that people identify Mike Flanagan for, but apparently his monologues are a known thing that or a thing he's known for in his projects, other than one thing. But yeah, I know it took me off. Again, it's one of those things where like the headline is like one, like this is the headline. So Mike Flanagan's new Stephen King adaptation will continue one great feature from his Netflix horror shows. I was like, what, utilizing amazing actors in multiple roles in different projects? Because that seems like just a good idea. Right. But it's actually talking about how apparently he has teased a poignant eulogy scene he's excited to recreate from the Dark Tower series. So I was like, I'm trying to think, what eulogy is he talking about? Because really the only one that popped in my head is like 7 books in.
Yeah, that's obviously the two things that I'm trying to think of. Like, first off, the article is saying that it's one of his best features of his shows of monologues, and I'm like, I guess there's voiceover work and some monologuing in each of his things, but it's not something that I would call like the defining thing of his shows.
Yeah.
And then to the second point is like, I can't think of any real monologuing of a funeral. Until late in the series when Who dies?
Jake.
It's Jake.
Yeah, and he gets hit by the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one they're
So
talking
like,
about.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, weird.
Spoiler, I guess, would be the thing I should have said. Jake dies later in the series, but like
that came out almost 30 years ago.
But like, also he doesn't really die.
Right.
So suck it, nerds. Anyways, I mean, he does that iteration of Jake dies, but there's another one that's actually happier, which actually, if you really think about it, is not really that happy because you find out that he goes the next iteration you see of him is from the same world that the fucking plague happens in for that one the stand. So like not the greatest outcome for his young life because he may be one of the few that's immune to it, but also not a great existence to be in.
Right.
The world the stand takes place in is a fucking hellhole. Anyhow, so what I found exciting about this is the fact that he's deep into the project of making the Dark Tower, because that's what they state in here, that he's like in the process of developing it, which is fucking rad.
Right.
But also he's thinking so far ahead that he's already like trying to work in his brain how he's gonna make that monologue, I guess you could say, as some would say in this, happen. So like that's pretty rad. But yeah, they talk about how this one later in this article it says what happens in the Dark Tower book scene that Mike Flanagan can't wait to adapt. It's basically Roland burying the wrecked body of Jake in the forest and then giving his eulogy, which is very, very poignant and very sad in the books. But to think that far ahead is wild.
Right.
Wild.
Yeah.
So yeah. And in the monologues they're talking about are like the speech that what is her character's name in I'm trying to find this article again, in the house Haunting of Hill House, where she basically is talking about like them growing up in there and like the influence they had on their family and blah blah blah, right? And then there's one from the one thing I have not watched by him yet, the Fall of the House of Usher. There's a part where Verena, who's played by Carla Gugino, has a speech in there that apparently is like Theo, that's her name, is like supposed to be like the defining moment of the show, whatever, right? Same thing as like that's what the monologue is for. So those are the 2 points they point out, and I was like, yeah, I guess, but he's also just a really good writer. So like, why not? You know what I mean? But whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I didn't read this article. Well, I read this article thinking it was gonna be something else. But then that's what there continues one great feature. I'm like, first off, he's got several great features of his Netflix horror shows. Monologue is definitely not one of them that I would have been like pointing out as that's the reason you should watch these.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's like okay.
I didn't sit there and go like, "Oh man, did you catch that monologue?" And I'm trying to remember what the vampire one was.
Hey man, spoiler alert! Midnight Mass, bro.
Midnight Mass.
You don't have to tell everybody it's a vampire story. Dang.
It's like 5 years old.
I don't even think it's that old actually.
I think it is actually.
Actually, you're probably right. That's fucked up.
Hold on.
Anyways, but also it talks about how his next project, Life of Chuck, and then doesn't talk anything about it. So I was like, well, what about it though? Can we
It's
get?
not 5 years old. It came out in 2021.
Boom, told you. But it
It's
seems like
getting-
5 years ago
it's
because
getting up there though.
COVID history makes things seem farther than they are.
Oh my god, yeah. Seriously. COVID history and then just getting old in general.
Yeah.
You start realizing a lot of stuff was like 2011 and it's like, holy crap.
I just there's like no information on when The Life of Chuck is going to be out. It just says possibly this year, but probably early 2025. Well, that does not make me happy because I want it now. But maybe that's just me being.
That's like there's something else that. Oh shit! What was it? There was something else that someone announced, and it's like, oh, or no, okay, it's the Rivian truck, the Rivian.
Which I also have
stuff.
saved as the thing to talk about.
Which could be the thing that we just transitioned to right now. Just speaking of that, where it was like, oh, they announced some new cars or a new SUV and then
Crossover.
SUV crossover type thing. They look really cool and everything, but they're not even scheduled to be built and released until 2026.
Yeah, not just that, and that's only the R2, which we'll get to in a second here. The R2 has a release date of 2026. The R3 and the R3X don't actually have a release date yet.
Right, yeah.
Or pricing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, so it's like, holy crap, that's like you can't. I don't even know if you can get excited about something like that, whether it be the original thing we were talking about or this, because it's like it's not even a thing yet. You know, it's not even beginning to be a thing yet. It's just a hope at this point in time.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I'm trying to find the other article I saw where they talked about they had so within 24 hours. The pre-registration or pre-ordering has already hit like what they say was like 48,000 or 68,000 vehicles, some shit like that. And if I can find it, I'll pull it up right now where we're talking about it. But
which is good.
Which is great.
It's cool that the new vehicle that they announced that what is it, the R2?
R2 is the new one, yeah.
Yeah, the R2. They at least gave it a price of $45,000.
Starting at 45. Yeah.
I say very reasonable electric vehicle. Like I could afford one even right now. Like I could even afford $45,000 vehicle right now. But it's a lot more reasonable than the $75,000 to $100,000 that their first two.
Yeah, their flagship vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, the R1S and the R1 T, right? R1S.
No.
R1.
I don't remember an E model.
No, T.
There's the R1T and
R1S.
So
yeah, so it's that
because
T.
it was the SUV and the truck model.
Yeah.
The R1S and R1T.
Yeah. Those ones are.
Jesus Christ, Lyra.
Okay, Lyra, calm down. Those ones are awesome vehicles, but they are way too overpriced for what I would ever want to spend on a vehicle. Because they're just and there's a lot of stuff like not I'm gonna say like like the Bluetooth speaker's dumb. It's just like why?
Well, they do have a lot of like little niche-y stuff in those things, especially the truck, which has don't get me wrong, it's really cool. It's I forgot what they call it, but it's the little pull out.
The pass-through area?
Pass-through area that you can either buy like a whole... It could be just hollow and you can just store stuff in it, or you could have like a pull-out kitchen set, for camping and stuff. It's really cool ideas. But you're right, there's a lot of little things that are just like, if you cut that out and cut out a few other things and bring the price down, it could be a lot more affordable, because on a day-to-day basis, am I really going to be using a fold-out cooking set inside of the gear tunnel? Not really.
Yeah.
No.
It's definitely like a...
my only problem with this type of stuff, too, is that I still don't see electric vehicles as a viable option for, like that type of stuff, like off-roading and camping, to be honest with you.
If you were in an area, so for example, so the first time I ever saw a Rivian truck in real life was in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is Flagstaff has a lot of outdoorsy stuff.
Yes, they do.
They have camping, they have hiking, biking. I think there's like skiing up there and snowboarding, maybe somewhere over there. I know it snows, but I don't know if they really have enough snow to call it that. Anyhow,
they do for Snowball.
Is that where Snowball's at? Is Flagstaff?
Yeah, Snowball's in Flagstaff.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not an outdoorsy guy. Anyhow, my point is,
on that mountain.
He's been on that mountain and almost died.
Yeah.
That's a story for a different day, which I actually think we've talked about on the podcast before.
We have, like 10 years ago, because that's when it happened. It was like 10 years ago.
Yep. Which is probably like 5, knowing Joe's COVID math. Anyways, so the first time I ever saw one was in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I say that because I don't know if everyone knows where we're at. We live in Arizona right now.
Yes.
It was charging at a of odd all things, a Tesla charger outside of a Walmart. First time I ever saw one, and I was blown away, and I took pictures and sent it to Joe. I was like, Joe, look at a Rivian. Because like we're nerds, and that's the thing we look. And it was the truck, because that was the first one out. It was the R1T, and I was like, oh, it's so cool because it's like it's the first non-Tesla electric car, really. Like, not that like there have been other ones, obviously, like the BMWs have their smaller ones, and the Chevy Volt and the Leaf and stuff, but they're not like impressive vehicles. They're just like casual. This was like the first like real electric vehicle outside of Tesla I've ever seen, and I was like, that's fucking cool. But my point is, if you are a person who does outdoorsy stuff like that, where you are going camping and you are off-roading, it's not like an off-road vehicle, but it can go off-road.
It's not really an off-road vehicle. Like I said that, I kind of immediately regret it, because it's not like I'm taking it out to the dunes and going off-roading. I just mean it like...
It can drive off of normal roads.
Drive off of normal roads, yeah.
So the point that I was making is that is an area where we'll say that 300 to 400 mile range a battery can get on one of these. And I don't know. This dude had an Arizona license plate. I don't know where he lives. I didn't talk to the guy. I don't even know if it's a dude. This person who owned the Rivian that I saw had an Arizona plate, and he was charging in Flagstaff, Arizona. So I assume they live in Arizona.
Yeah.
And this was 4 years ago, I think, when I saw this. COVID again is making it hard for me to remember exactly when. Anywho, 3 or 4 years ago was the first time I ever saw one in real life, which is basically when they started hitting the market and stuff like that. And it got to thinking, like, that's the kind of like place I expect it to see a Rivian, is like somewhere like Flagstaff or Prescott or Sedona, one of those outdoorsy type of areas. Not Phoenix, even though I've seen them here now, but that's because they've become more popular and people are like, I want to look cool and have a overly expensive truck indoor SUV that is electric. But to the point is, that's where I kind of expected to see, like, that's the, like, I don't expect this thing to be, like, I guess if I saw one in, like, Yosemite National Park, it would make sense too, but, like, being in Arizona, in the high country, it would make more sense than seeing it in downtown Phoenix.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, because you are, at that point, you're probably utilizing it for the off-road capabilities and the camping capabilities. Now, this guy did have, or again, this person, I don't want to assume it was a guy, they did have the camping thingy on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked to me that it was like the camper, but like had the rack with like the stuff strapped to it or whatever. So they're definitely doing stuff that was not just driving around town, or he wanted to make it look like he was, or they were, but whatever. But yeah, so that's the point to me, is like, that was, if you're into that world and you have that kind of money or want to spend that kind of money, you don't always have to have it because you can finance it if you're lucky enough, whatever, right? But I would say spending that much money, you would want to be utilizing it for that type of thing, because of, like, you know, the adjustable heights and all that fun stuff it can do with, like, the hydraulic, or right, they're not even hydraulics, right? Well, they are hydraulics, but I don't know how to explain that. The being able to lift and raise the truck for different heights for, say, going over rocks or things like that, where in a normal truck, right, you just have to, like, go at an angle and hope you don't get fucking stuck in the middle of it, where this can, like, level itself out for uneven terrain, when camping is actually, like, ideal for that, not for driving, but you can do it when you're driving too, because you can raise the truck up to go over bigger stuff. Anyhow, so yeah, to your point, electric vehicles right now, for the pricing, are not really vehicle if it's your sole vehicle. Because if you want to take road trips, for example, it makes it very limited to where you can go and where you can go. Now, I know with Tesla and with Rivian, and I think with the Chevys, because the 2024 Chevy EV Blazer or Blazer EV, I can't remember how they do it, are out and selling, which is another thing I was going to talk about with this too, is they have built-in, if you use their built-in navigation, have a way to tell you when you need to charge and where you need to stop to charge, and where you can stop to charge because of the built-in knowledge of the charging network. So I know that's not really. I think it's cross country, but mostly people use that if they're going from like California to Vegas, or from Phoenix to California somewhere, or even up the West Coast and stuff like that, and East Coast too. I believe they have all that down there. But yeah, so they're built in to tell you. But yeah, the price point of them makes it not where it's like your primary vehicle. Like the Chevy Volt is the price point of like, this is your everyday vehicle. I'm driving around town, but I'm not using this to drive across the country in. Mainly because they're real small, and I don't know if they'd be very comfortable for a long road trip. Like driving a Mini Cooper across the country. Ew. But yeah, to your point, I get you. That pricing is hella big for your everyday vehicle, but also hella big if you're trying to drive that thing across multiple states.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you only have a 300-mile range that you need to charge, right? And charging stations are not nearly as abundant as gas stations are. So like, obviously you have to pick your routes differently than you would with a motor vehicle or gas combustion vehicle. I don't want to just say gasoline because there are other modes of combustion out there. So yeah, that's an interesting point and a very valid point you bring up about it. But they having the R2 and prospectively the R3, R3X as newer vehicles coming out to compete against the, as everyone says, the Tesla monarchy when it comes to electric vehicles. Whenever people say electric vehicle, automatically people think Tesla, because they're obviously the oldest and most prolific of all electric vehicles in the landscape. So that's a big thing. But this is what Rivian wants to do, is Rivian wants to compete against that bigger market, because Tesla does have lower price point vehicles that are, just as compelling as their bigger vehicles for lower pricing, right? They're not as fancy or, whatever it happens to be, but they're still nice vehicles. The Model 3 is outstanding vehicle from what I've heard. The Model Y is a pretty substantial vehicle. And those are the two cheaper versions of the two larger flagship vehicles they have in the Model S and the Model X. But there's still a pretty heavy price tag. Actually, not in the Model 3. Model 3, I think the low end one, like the base model one they have now, is like $34,000, which is quite reasonable for a car and quite reasonable for an electric car. Actually, extremely reasonable for an electric vehicle. One that has very fast speeds. Not that you need a fucking race, Taj, but doesn't have the stigma of being a slow vehicle, because a lot of EVs have always been seen as slow vehicles because they're very small, economic cars. They're not designed to get on the highway and do 95 miles an hour. But the Model 3 can, I don't remember the specs, but it's a very quick 0 to 60 and get up and go vehicle without having to, pay the $100,000 for a Model S.
Right.
I did find it. So they had over 68,000 pre-orders, or reservations as they call them, put in under 24 hours. And it is a $100 down. Does not. So the cool thing about it, and Tesla started this, I think with the Model X, but it could be the Model Y. I can't remember which one they did it with. But basically, you go on, you put down this essentially a down payment, right, reservation fee for it, And the best part is you're not tied to a contract. You're not guaranteed to have to buy this vehicle, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm pretty sure I'd have to look into it. I think the $100 is refundable if you decide not to keep your reservation. And the $100 goes towards your car. So, like,
Which
you know,
is good, yeah.
not just like, hey, here's $100 that's just gone forever, no matter if you buy the car or not. I believe you can get your $100 back. The $1,000 is what Tesla charged for their reservation for Model 3, if I remember correctly. I know and I think the Cybertruck had almost the same amount as $1,000. But again, the point is, you can put this down, and it doesn't have to. You're not like tied down to buying this vehicle in 2026 when it comes out or when they come out. It just gets you the opportunity to buy one of the first ones that comes off the line, but also helps them using that $68,000 or 68,000 plus reservations in the first 24 hours helps them probably gain money and not just obviously $68,000 or $6.8 million or whatever for that, but it also helps them probably entice investors into investing in it because
it shows that you have a group of people that's willing to buy it right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you garner $6.8 million in less than 24 hours for a vehicle that nobody's going to have be able to drive for the next 2 years, is a hell of a boom when it comes to, hey, we would like to ramp up production of these, but also like finish our $5 billion factory we have not finished yet in Georgia that we had to put on hold because of revenues not being made by our flagship vehicles, which are, again, very costly. But to compare it to other vehicles, and again, that's not this article, but if I remember correctly, it took Ford 3 months to get 100,000 reservations for the Ford Lightning. So, like, having well over half of that within 24 hours is a hell of a mark to hit on those. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. But quickly, we'll wrap this up because we're well over our normal hour. So the R2 and the R3 are smaller than the existing R1 platform, which the R1T and the R1S share. The R2, which as of right now isn't going to have, as of right now, does not have a variation that's outside of the SUV. And they made it sound like they're probably not going to because it is more of an SUV, like almost SUV, like in the lines of like the Blazer, and that like what everyone considers the classic SUV style now, like Ford Explorer, that range, that kind of size. This is a 2-row vehicle, not like the EV9 from Kia, which is a 3-row vehicle, which it's like 2.5 rows really if you look at it. From what I've seen, you're not fitting adults back there comfortably. You're definitely fitting children indoor car seats, which if you put a car seat way back there, I guess you don't really care about that child anyhow. So it's a cool platform. I think it's an underutilized one because it's just kind of breaking into the that kind of area with the Chevy releasing the Blazer EV this year. I think Equinox comes out this year, may come out next year, in that range, and those are both in that size of SUVs. But then the R3 and the R3X are a slightly smaller vehicle in that crossover. So basically, the in between of a sedan and an SUV, which is like, to me personally, not like me thinking everybody else. To me, that is the entry point I would want to be in if it's not a sedan.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at that thing. It almost looks like more of a car to me. than anything else, just a regular car,
Yep.
rather than any type of crossover SUV or anything. But yeah, depending on the price, it would probably be the most reasonable and most affordable one. It's not the one that I would want, but it's probably the one that I could afford if I went with that. I do like that they kept the same like headlight design for every vehicle.
Yeah,
it's kind of like their signature thing, and it's kind of interesting to see that on like every single one of their vehicles.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the characteristic that is Rivian is that like headlight design, and the fact they did like they even I don't know if you watched the whole video or not, or any of the videos.
I just scrolled through the website.
So they talked about that. RJ Scarridge, I think I don't know how to say his last name, was the presenter of their little keynote thing where they, because he has teased in interviews previously that the R2 platform they've been working on quite a bit is going to be their lower price point versus their flagship stuff. Still, actually, even a lower price point for most vehicles in that range. That they're planning on bringing out more details on in 2024, which they did. But they pulled a surprise moment where no one knew they were working on an R3 platform. And when he said, "Oh, we have one more thing to show," and then we have one more thing to show with the R3X. And when they showed the R3, and I was like, "Oh, that's the one for me," because I like that smaller form factor, but it's still like that like crossover size, like a little bigger sedan, like size wise, but not overly big. So I was like, dang. And then they showed the R3X, and I was like, I know it's gonna cost more, but that blue is real nice. Real. I don't like the orange mirrors or the yellow seats, but I like that blue. But yeah. So to me, the R3 is definitely a more interesting thing. The R2 is a definitely interesting thing because starting price of $45,000 for a fully electric SUV with more than 300 miles per charge and 3 different motor trims you can get is pretty intriguing to me because they're all wheel drive, but you have a 2-motor setup as well as a tri-motor setup. So that's pretty rad on there, but also just like the fact that like they did a lot of things of like using recycled plastic for the interior and using like cork at one point, and they still have the aesthetics of that adventure feel of the Rivian line, but they keep the frunk, or the front trunk as some would say. They have innovations when it comes to like the back gate portion of it. The fact that you can I don't know if you know this or not because you haven't watched any of the videos or anything, but one of the reasons both rows of seats lay flat in the R2 is because they're going to sell a camping accessory, which is an inflatable mattress that fits perfectly from tail to steering wheel on the lowered down seats.
Okay.
So if you go camping in the R2, much like you would like in the R1S, without having to buy the tent extension, you could have a full-size blow-up mattress fill that space and be able to camp. And because you have an all-glass ceiling, you could actually experience the outdoors while still being inside your vehicle.
That's cool.
Which is fucking cool as hell. To me, at least, the idea. I wouldn't be camping because that doesn't appeal to me. But that aspect is cool because they're still keeping that Rivian like Explorer thing going with these other vehicles without trying to trim that out. And the R2 does include an indoor flashlight that's rechargeable via the door.
Yeah, that was included in their other previous models too. So people were saying that they liked that carried over. Yeah.
So the one thing that everyone wanted is fun. It's so funny in the keynote they're talking about, and this last thing I'll bring up is the fact that like there is no like glove box in the R1 platform. So they doubled down and have 2 in the R2. Nice. I was like, that's actually pretty funny. So they still have wireless charging. That's going to be in the center console. They're still going to use, obviously Bluetooth. They're still using their proprietary software on the interior, but from what I've read and heard in different reviews, is it's by far the best in-car user interface on any vehicle.
That's good.
So that's good. And then you have the new haptic feedback wheels in the steering wheel that are crazy when if you watch the some of the stuff they talked about, like when they got to use it, depending what menu you're in, the click changes. So, for example, if you're in a menu that has like 4 options, it clicks 4 times, and it changes how big the click is.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you go to a menu that only has 2, it's just 2 big clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was pretty fucking cool. But yeah, it all changes depending on what menu you're in and which screen you're using for switching through the menu. So, pretty rad. Anyways, that's it for now. With all the stuff that I had to talk about. Joe, anything else before we go?
Nope, I don't got anything.
Cool. All right, so that has been it for this week's episode of Comes Naturally. We have been
Joe.
I've been Cody, and as usual, you fuckers just came naturally.
Bye.